Hello, everyone. It's Jim from Raymarine with a special Tuesday edition of Raymarine Live. We have a really special episode for you today. We're going to be joining one of our pro ambassadors, Harry Dwyer from the UK. Harry has been taking an incredible journey around Britain in a very tiny speedboat. He's going to tell us all about his adventure. So without any delay, let's bring Harry in here. Hey, Harry, how are you today?
Good, thank you. Hi, Jim. Hello, everybody. I am Harry, and I'm very slowly going around the UK in a very small speedboat. Technically not a speedboat, it's a rib, but I just thought for ease, it's better. And to me, it's a speedboat. So
it's definitely a really cool project you have put together, and the story behind it is really pretty amazing of how you kind of stumbled into this boat and learned boating skills, learned
I'm not an expert.
skills, wiring skills, everything along the way.
I'm a sort of bodger, and I definitely fell into it. But cool. I'd seen this boat, and I thought that is an exciting machine, and it kind of accidentally set myself on this ridiculous journey.
Well, definitely can't wait to hear more about it. Just for the audience, so obviously we are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. If you have questions or comments along the way, feel free to chat those in, and we'll keep an eye on them over here in our sidebar, and we'll stop periodically to take some questions. We know a lot of you are also going to be watching this as a recorded video later on. If you have questions or comments too, certainly feel free to drop those in, because in the tradition of Raymarine Live, I do try to get all the questions answered. So if you hear something, or you have a comment, or you want more information, certainly drop your questions into the feed, and we'll make sure that you get your questions answered. So Harry, I think you presented, or you put together some slides and some pictures for us. I'm going to bring that in here as well. Let's see.
I have the incredible tale of how I ended up doing this. There is the boat. It's called Goodwin. That's actually a fairly recent name, but it's an SR4 Sea Rider from 1977, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 45 years old. So it's a lot older than it looks, actually.
It is really in good condition for its age. I would never guess that it's that old, but I imagine probably a lot of hard work and a lot of elbow grease went into getting it looking the way it's looking now.
Yeah, it's actually fairly original, but it does periodically get quite a lot of maintenance, not all of which is good. Some of it is done well, but yeah, when I found it, it was quite knackered, and I've been slowly doing it up bit by bit.
That's pretty cool. Can you tell us a little bit about where the boat come from in the first place?
Yes, well, I was thinking basically in the slideshow here, I was going to talk about how we got into it. So sure. This is a kind of a TV show that we worked on, where we kind of landed with this dream job where they gave us this old Airbus A320 passenger jet and said, can you make products out of it? It's being scrapped. Can you make some interesting products? And it was just really fun. So I got my friend Charlie in, who's on the left there, and he's in a lot of the boat videos. And so Charlie and I set about just carving it up and making different things. And it was such a fun. It was just basically just having a laugh in a workshop with a load of tools. But I'm not a professional kind of maker, so it was sort of a bit of a learning exercise. But we made this fun kind of garden pagoda, and learned how to weld aluminium badly. And
I can imagine there must be some interesting materials and interesting shapes and structures to work with.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's also something called zinc chromate, which is how they protect all the aluminium to stop it corroding, and it's also highly toxic. So yeah, it was great fun. This is a magazine rack made from 2 tray tables. This was a good seller. And after the program, Charlie and I kind of set up a little workshop just making recycled things. So just taking we started with lots of airplane stuff and made all sorts of different things. And so one of the products that we went into on a sideline, we thought, can we build a houseboat from cardboard? And it seemed like a fun idea, and we had all this cardboard knocking around. You can see in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And there were great bins outside the workshop, which just filled up with cardboard every day. So we started collecting it all up, and eventually made this houseboat, which was it was actually very successful, much better than we thought. It floated really well. We did a lot of coating in different glues and tried some epoxy. One of the big mistakes we made is we used PVA glue, which is what we all use in school. And I remember thinking, oh, it's what you use in schools to waterproof things.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were washing the brushes up, these brushes were like coated in all this hard glue. And then I was thinking, this is great. Look, the brushes are just, the glue's just dissolving in water. It's coming straight off the brush. And then sure enough, it came straight off the cardboard as well. So we made a video of that, and that's how we got into making YouTube videos, because the video did quite well on YouTube, and then it's sort of, you know, you get the bug, and it's quite exciting thinking, what else can we make videos for? So then we got onto another project, which is next door to our workshop is this big recording studio that's been converted from an old lighthouse ship. It's an old light ship, and the front was full of expanding foam. And so we made a video about how you remove thousands of liters of expanding foam, which is on YouTube. And the byproduct is that on the back of this boat was this old rib that wasn't being used. And the owner of the boat, Ben, who's in the video, he wanted to get rid of it. And I said, give it to me. And he said, no. And I said, oh, please. And he said, no. And then eventually he said, yes. So it was pretty knackered when we got it. He was, he'd been using it on the Thames, but the engine basically sort of had a strange fault. So it wasn't very reliable. And it's a tidal river. So it's pretty stressful. If the engine goes, you're basically 6 hours going in the wrong direction. You can't paddle against it. You can see the old dashboard there. That was where the dashboard was when we got it. So it had this kind of aluminium panel over it. That's the same steering wheel and same tubes, same throttle controller. Still using that fuel tank at the back. So it's a lot of its original. The same orange fiberglass kind of dashboard bit. But anyway, so we got it into the workshop, and I thought, okay, we'll start fixing it up. I've already been kind of working on the engine here. And then we started stripping it down, and you can see how corroded the kind of the gel coat was. Or not corroded, but it's very faded and worn. I'm going into a lot of detail here, Jim.
That's okay. I'm guessing that this boat, you know, probably before you ever had it, I mean, it probably had it looks like it was marked for a harbor master or something like that. So it probably had a pretty hard life all on its own. And now it's,
I'm sure it lived outside most of the time. And the transoms, they're famously a bit dodgy. I mean, these were they were kind of the first ribs at the time. They'd only been around for a few years. So I guess they were still developing some of the kind of the ways of designing and doing things. But even that transom, I never really fixed it properly. And what happens is the top had a strip of aluminium across it, and it was just screwed in from the top from the factory, I think. But that just meant that those screw holes just let the water straight into it. Apparently, you'd never do that now. But anyway, so I wanted to pimp it up, and I started work on the dashboard. And this is the yogurt pot, plastic recycled yogurt pot we were using. And this is my kind of very first Raymarine gadget. So I got this one secondhand from eBay, I think. And it's a little dragonfly. And I just knew that I kind of wanted to have an inbuilt mapping system, so that because I don't know what I'm doing, I'd just be able to, like a car, just click go. And I kind of knew that I wouldn't really be able to rely on my phone if it gets wet, or, you know, I wanted something waterproof. These switches on here, they were, I mean, when you look at the cost of stuff for boats, it's generally really expensive. So I thought, hold on a minute, an individual switch for £7. This is, you know, from eBay, you can get, how many have I got there? You can get 10 switches. It said waterproof on it, and they were like £9. They didn't last too long. I remember them actually.
Yeah, there's a very big difference, I think, between waterproof on land and waterproof on a boat, especially when you start getting it into the salt water.
Yeah, exactly. The salt is just, and that's what I wasn't really prepared for. I mean, bolts, I thought, well, this is fine. That these galvanized bolts, I'm not paying £1.50 for a bolt. These ones are 7p. But now I take real pride in spending £1.50 on a bolt and enjoying the fact it doesn't go rusty after 2 hours. But we got it looking pretty good by the end of it. And we were making these videos about it. And I was sort of saying, when it's done, we're going to take it around the UK. But I don't think I really believed that that's what I was going to do. I thought I'd just set off and it would be a fun sort of adventure to see how far we'd get. To a large extent, it still is that a bit.
The boat is really looking great in those shots. It's amazing. Just, you've gotten a lot of the shine back to it. The gel coat is looking great. The tubes are looking great.
The gel coat polished up actually really well. I repainted the inside, but the outside just polished it, and it was still pretty good. And the tubes, I mean, it's amazing. They must be original because it's got the original logo. I don't know if you can see on this side, that oval there, just left of the handle on the tube. There's an oval, which is the old Avon sticker. So it probably is a tube from 1977. And it's, it was never, I'm sure they didn't imagine it would last this long.
No, yeah. It's certainly a testament to how well it was made that it has survived for this long. And
you can see on the floor to the right, that's some this kind of flooring I put down. And I remember someone commenting on YouTube saying, get rid of the flooring. It's just going to wrap around your face over the first wave. And they were right. So sort of some things work well, some things didn't. This is fuel tank. I bought one fuel tank for the bow, which is one of those kind of triangular shaped ones. So we always have quite a lot of weight right up at the front, and that's our third tank that we can get onto, if we need to. But ideally, we kind of run off the two back tanks.
Okay.
And that's a 25-litre tank, so not massive. But I guess it's like standard size, isn't it? What's that? That's 5 gallons.
That's about 5 gallons. Yep.
But as it's fuel is a big deal. I kind of worried about the sort of environmental aspects, because when you're filling up your fuel tank, you really see it when you have to pick it up and carry it and put it in the boat. You really feel the weight of it. But it's actually nothing like the fuel that you put in the vehicle to tow it. When we fill up, I mean, normally, we can run for days, whereas, the car can burn through much more quickly, but you just don't realize how much you're sticking in there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I did some calculations and I worked out the kind of current rate we're going, we probably use about the same amount in fuel as we would for 2 flights to, I think, New York and back from the UK. So, the amount of fuel that you put in the wings of an Airbus A320, I think it's 20 tons, 20,000 litres, or is it 60,000 litres? But it's a lot. So, when you think how much boating you can do, how many YouTube videos you can make.
That's a lot of content, a lot of video.
Exactly. How many bad backs you can get. So here's our friend Bill, who is he's a powerboat instructor, and he's got a school near us. So he was giving us some tips on what not to do, but he loved it. And actually, he originally helped Ben, who has this ship, buy this boat, because he said, "Oh, those are really good." And I didn't know anything about it, but it is actually like a real classic boat, and they're still, quite desirable because it's just a really lightweight, small, but quite seaworthy hull. And here's the old map. So I made a part of the videos. I kind of make these stop frame animations because stop frame animation is one of the things that I do for a living. So I kind of make these little videos where I kind of show how far we've gone in the nuts and bolts, and that's the dream. This is how far we will go. I think in some ways we're going further because we're doing so much wiggling. So I think if I had a track, I should have run a proper track on a GPS and kept the data to get the exact meter distance, but I haven't. But it's when you start wiggling, it goes much slower. It's amazing. You realize why you just pick 2 points and go straight. But if you do that, you don't see anything. So it's good to have an excuse to stop.
But so where are you stopped at currently on that journey? How far around the map?
If you look at if you go where it says Atlantic Ocean at the top left.
Yes.
We are just at the bolt underneath ocean. So that's not bad. And we started in London, so sort of bottom right.
Okay, yeah. So you're probably more than halfway, right about halfway.
I mean, I like to think that the other side looks a lot straighter, so probably you'll go quicker. And actually, that is something with our wiggling. That's something you really notice that, you know, if you're going directly north on the map, you cover so much ground. And if you're going north, but you're doing a bit of east, a bit of west, it's like just the days turn into weeks. Here we are going. This is the White Cliffs of Dover. So we've kind of got France on our left, and this was on our first trip on the second day, where we really didn't know what we were doing, but we did suddenly get a taste for it. It was where it was like, okay, this could be possible, and it was like the sun was shining, and I think just shortly after this, we got the Port of Dover radioed us to ask us what we were doing, because they just saw this boat coming in at high speed, and obviously there's a lot of giant ferries that are also going quite quickly. But they were very nice. I mean, I did my VHF radio license before we left, and I'm sort of, obviously legally you have to have had that to use the radio, so it's quite nice to know we've got that, so that I can talk and not feel like a complete idiot. Otherwise you feel like everyone's telling you off.
So I noticed I was just going to say, I noticed in that photo there's a fair amount of spray on the windshield. How is the ride, generally speaking? Is it dry, or are you getting wet all the time?
I mean, the day after this, it was incredibly wet. It was just like a waterfall coming down, but it was like, that was wind over tide, kind of really steep chop. And it was also, we'd broken the propeller, so we were down on power.
Oh, no.
But that was really bad. I mean, that was just like a waterfall. And actually, that's what took out all of those switches, because they lasted about, I think they lasted through the waterfall, but literally the next day they were just all dead. They were sort of just like massive balls of furry kind of green.
That was the end.
Yeah. But you realize, like, even wires, it's like you can get excited by tinned wire, things like that, because you know it's not going to go green when it's amazing. But you can see there our little Dragonfly GPS. I mean, the brilliant thing about it is that, you know, I think Sam's driving there, and it's like everybody knows how to use it, and so it's like you can just, you know, drive it a bit like you're driving a car, basically, which was my vision. I just wanted us to sit back like Thelma and Louise and just eat the miles. But we ended up beaching it, and I bought I'm going into way too much detail, Jim, but these were exciting. I bought these because I thought my plan was we'll push the boat up the beach and then camp. And so we just saw this beach, and I was like, look, we got all the stuff, we'll do it. So we beached it. It was a little steeper than I imagined, and also it was quite rocky. And then you can get these inflatable rollers, so you can basically push it up the beach.
Oh, right. But, just kind of roll it over the top of the rollers and keep going. Yep. Continuous.
I mean, unfortunately, the boat weighs about 450 kilos. I think these are designed maybe for like a sailing dinghy that weighs 100 kilos or even less. And that was my guess anyway, because it was pretty tough. And when we popped them, but it was a great night on this beach. So yeah, that's how it got going, and then we just sort of I realized we're not going to do this in one go, partially because I broke everything on the boat, but also I think just to make the videos and to keep things interesting, it's quite fun to just take your time. If you go at it hammer and tongs, it's very tempting to just think we could go there, but it'd be much quicker if we go here and go straight. So it's quite good doing it in stages, because it forces you, it kind of keeps you interest. So you think, oh, we can wiggle our way around and not just go straight. So there's more to look at. But yeah, in one of the downtime periods, Raymarine, those lovely people, gave us a load of gadgets, and we decided to kind of upgrade the dashboard to accommodate them. And obviously the the old switches are gone, and I've laser cut this panel, so we've got switches, which are those Carling switches, which are waterproof and definitely more reliable. And then we've got the cutouts for the Axiom there as well. Still using the same panel, and that's still the same steering wheel that was on the boat when we got it. So, oh no, that's not the Axiom. That was the Element, Jim. So that's the smallest. Yep. So there's the Element, which is actually really good. So that was the first kind of upgrade, and that's us going to the Scilly Isles, which is about, on the route we took, it's about 40 miles offshore. So it was a really terrifying but exciting jaunt in a very small boat. But actually fine. I do spend a lot of time looking at weather now, which is something I didn't do at the beginning.
I suppose that's one of the things you learn along the way very quickly, that it's critical to knowing what conditions you're going to be facing up ahead.
Yeah, I just thought, oh, it's sunny, let's go originally. But I learned the hard way.
A little bit of wind makes a big difference in the sea conditions.
And you just never know. I mean, unless you've gone and done it. Because I'm always quite, oh, it'll be fine, come on, let's go. And now I've got the sort of, the long stare and thinking, oh, kind of. I spend a lot of time looking at windy.com, the windy app. Yep. That's just a really easy one to see the weather and the wind. And I think for filming, it's just, it's good to see rough weather because it's exciting, but it's actually hard to get good footage. The drone doesn't like the rain, really. You can't, the lens is so small, one drop of rain on the lens and it sort of ruins the shot. So it's much better with good weather. I mean, this is the kind of seas that it's good. That's great.
Ideal there, right? It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. It is amazing. And it's like, I've learned that same thing of weather envy when you see someone else who's been out in the boat in the amazing weather, and you just, if you have a boat, it's just, you just think, because you know what it's like when it's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can have the best boat in the world, but if you don't get the good weather, it's never going to be the same.
No.
This is another little Avon who recognized us, and was giving us a bit of a race. This was going along the Cornish coast. Just amazing. I think when we had it in London, where we started, I always had this dream of being in a Cornish cove and putting the anchor down and just jumping in off the side. And so I think that was what was spurring me on. Obviously, we could have just put it on a trailer. It would have been much easier. But it is a great boat for doing that because the sides are so soft and so low, you can just slide straight in.
Easy to climb in and climb out.
Yeah. It's basically like a big sort of inflatable Lilo kind of poolside inflatable. Here we are. I think this is where is this? I think this is going along in Devon. So this is a bit more wintry, and we were trying out the side scan. Is it a sort of 3D side scanning sonar we have on that transducer?
Yes, that Element HV100. Yep. So you have side vision, down vision, and 3D on there. So that looks like side vision we're looking at now.
It's like we tried to look for some shipwrecks, but it was quite bumpy when we were doing it at some point. But I every now and then I'd look at it when we were using it, and by accident I'd see this incredible, perfect kind of the ripples in the sand along the surface on the bottom of the sea. When the conditions are right, it's really crystal clear.
That's pretty good. So I noticed, Harry, we have some pretty good questions in the queue here. Let's pause it for just a second and take a look at a few questions that have come in. I'll pop a few of them up here. So what are you running for seats in the boat?
The seats that were on it, well, I think that the original seats were these kind of black foam seats, which had already been replaced by some super cheap boat seats. And if anyone's looked for seats, there are basically these ones that always come up, which are obviously made in China, and they're not that cheap, but they're like really basic folding seats. And so I wanted something a bit more exciting. So the ones that I got are they're 1980s Avon Sea Rider seats. So they're a bit more luxurious, but they're just simple fiberglass bucket seats, super lightweight, and then they've just got a removable cushion, so you can put storage in the seat base, and that actually works really well. But it's not. I put more foam in the cushion to try and save our backs, but it's not perfect. And actually, the stitching's starting to come apart on the vinyl, because I think it does take a bit of a pounding. They're pretty tight as well, because they only just fit. I tried to put some tractor suspension seats in, which I'm glad I didn't, because the rust with those would have been phenomenal. They were like sort of steel, black painted steel. They would have just rusted to nothing. But I mean, yeah, the dream would be some hardcore suspension seats. But I don't even know if we'd actually have room for it, because it's so tight in there. You know, your legs just fit under the steering wheel. I think it's funny, in some shots, particularly with a wide angle lens, it looks quite spacious, but really two normal people kind of sit on top of it, really. It's quite
it actually leads in well to this next question. This actually came in from Rob, and he noticed your amazing cinematography skills. Do you have a background in photography or video?
Well, that is very kind. I do make videos for a living, but I'm normally not the cinematographer. But I think that it looks good on camera because I've edited it so heavily and cut out all the bad bits. That would be my advice. It's like, shoot enough that you hate yourself because you have to look through all the footage. But yeah, I think if you edit it down enough, then you can always, it. And I think this is probably the way with a lot of filmmaking. It's like, it's in the edit, really. If you can select the right bits, and also don't show too much, because it's, if you've got 5 minutes of great drone footage, if you show 5 minutes, everyone just is bored and it's not that impressive. But so if you just show just a few seconds, I always want to put longer clips on, but trying to stop myself. The videos are too long as it is. So, the latest one that I'm working on now is feature length, but by, kind of, it's like the Lord of the Rings or something. It's ridiculously long. So I need to work out how to make it shorter.
Well, you have some fans on here. Dean actually wrote in, and he suggests that, we should binge watch your series. It's high production value from a major streaming service. Quite good.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Yeah, I never know how well, because they're made so far apart. It's hard to know how well you can watch them back to back. I mean, I guess hopefully they're sort of. I can imagine a lot of people will have it on in the background, because I think there is quite a few hours of it now. Because I'm editing episode 12, and the latter episodes are getting along for sort of an hour. So they're
wow.
Yeah, they get on. But I think I was always into radio controlled planes when I was a kid. I used to make them in the shed with my dad, and then I think when the drones came out, I was like, oh my god, I really want to have a go on one of those. And so it's sort of the dream to be flying a drone, and then actually flying it off a boat and following yourself along is like the funnest thing. It's just I think that's what's amazing about a boat as well, is that you can go anywhere. There's no roads. Like a camper van, generally you're stuck on a track or a road, and on the sea you can just go wherever you like. It's mad. And so it's just so fun, and actually it's great for flying the drone, because you can just you don't have to worry about hitting a tree generally. I do get a bit paranoid when I'm flying the drone. It's quite strange when you're operating the drone and you're banging along like this, but trying to watch the screen, and the screen is perfectly smooth shot. And sometimes it's not as smooth as you want. It feels smooth, but actually when you look at it back, it's part of the excitement of it.
So back to your presentation here. So where are we now in this photo? It looks like you have some upgrades on the boat too.
Yes, this is the upgrades. So, I mean, I think I said to Richard from Raymarine UK, I said, what about radar? And he said, really, do you want radar? I was like, well, it could be good, if we get stuck in the fog. And I think I've just always been intrigued by radar. And so he looked into it and he was like, yeah, I think it could fit on there. And actually it works really well. And obviously along with the radar, we upgraded everything else. So then we started upgrading the dashboard for new screens to work with this radar. So this is the Quantum 2. And it's an impressive piece of kit. I mean, obviously, besides the fact that it gives you like vision in the dark of hard objects and fog, someone else also mentioned, because it's completely waterproof and hollow, if we did capsize, it might act as a bit of a self-righting mechanism because it's so buoyant. Obviously, I haven't tried that.
I don't know that we've designed it for that, but yeah, hopefully you don't find out.
Yeah. Well, it could be, it could be a good sales feature.
Yes, a little bonus.
This is a little fishing village just on the kind of western edge of Cornwall, on the south coast. Polperro, this is famous for smuggling. I think the whole town basically made an income from smuggling back in the day. Here we are in the Scilly Isles. This is a completely deserted island, and the Scilly Isles is basically the UK equivalent of I don't know, probably like the Bahamas or somewhere like that. It's off, kind of a little archipelago offshore, and it's just incredibly clear water. Here we are camping, and there was a sign here saying no camping, but the tourist board did message me and say, "This is great. Can we use the footage?" So I feel like it's okay.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to beg forgiveness than ask permission, right?
No. And I feel like, it's like we're very responsible. So, I think we're not setting a bad example. I like to think that, rather than 100,000 people camping there, they can watch the video. Is that okay?
Very true. So for most of the nights that you're out on the water, are you camping more often than not, night after night?
Yeah, camping's always the dream. We stayed in a few other places, but generally we're camping. I think it's sort of easier because you're so exhausted. Mm-hmm. You just want to kind of chuck the tents down. And I always spend ages trying to work out where to put the tent up for the best shot.
Right. Yeah. Where's the right spot?
So it's never as easy as that. I think anyone who comes with me is always like, oh my God, I didn't realize it's this hard work. Because I'm quite obsessive about, I think there's a lot of like, right, hold this camera, turn the GoPro on, turn it off again, get the drone up, catch the drone. Now you drive that way, it's in the videos, obviously it doesn't look like that, but there's a lot of that. And I guess the camping is almost the most relaxed bit. This is one of the things that happened last year, some engine servicing. I had done quite a lot of work to the engine, but I thought, I'll give it a proper service and do all the gearbox oil, engine oil, spark plugs. There was quite a lot of rust because I'd have a leaking water jacket, the bit that cools the engine. And so I kind of went into everything and I had the carb off, stripped the whole carb down. It was beautiful, it was running like clockwork. And then it was a really hot day. So the fuel was evaporating beautifully. I'd been running it in this bag, which I bought for £85. It was a bag that you can then run the engine in. So it runs the water through, fill the bag up with water, and you can run the cooling water through it. Because it doesn't really like running on the muffs, this one. Anyway, unfortunately, the whole thing burst into flames. And I was quite amazing. I thought, oh, fine, I've got a hose here. I'll just hose it out. It did not go down at all. Quickly, we kind of got the fuel tank out of the way because I just thought the whole thing was going to go up. And I'd never really had, I'd always been tinkering with cars when I was younger. And I think when you start out, you think, petrol, that's dangerous. You mustn't, it catches fire. And then you realize actually it doesn't catch fire. There's that myth about in Die Hard where he throws a cigarette into the kind of gasoline. And actually, in theory, you need a naked flame. You can't do it from a kind of ember. Well, you can do it from a spark plug lead if you pull it off to check to check whether you're running on all three cylinders. So I pulled it off to see whether the third cylinder is running, and that little spark just ignited the fuel that was running on the surface. It was coming out and it was sitting on the surface of the bag on the water.
Oh wow!
It was mad. But the reason it actually happened was because I left the drain plug open on the carburetor float bowl. So it was literally, as I was pumping the primer, I was just pumping raw fuel straight onto this thing. And it was really hot, so it just all evaporated. It was like the perfect bomb. Anyway, what is amazing is it all went back together fine. I just like a lot of it melted, but I kind of it had this kind of fire protected shielding on the big fuel pipes inside the engine cover. All of those, it's quite interesting. They kind of shrink right down, but they take a lot of the heat away from the fuel pipe. So I replaced all that shielding. All of the vacuum pipes didn't have that, so they just all melted to nothing. But I replaced all those pipes and everything, and it ran fine. And so since then, we've done, I don't know, 600 miles on it or something. It's fine. Oh, there you go, putting it out.
Got to keep.
That's my nephew inside. That's my nephew looking out of the window up there. Who, I think I don't know if he he looks out on that boat a lot, and I don't know. I think he just thought that was normal, but he was shocked. So here's the upgraded dash with the so after the element, we put the Axiom in for the radar. And that's actually testing it out. You can see the line of trees on the radar there. Right.
Yep. It looks like you have it in Doppler mode. And then, I see the GPS fixed. And it all fits in there pretty nicely. You guys do a great job when you recut that whole panel out.
No, it works. It works a treat. I mean, in a way, there's a lot to be said just for kind of losing, the switches and just having a bigger screen. I mean, I feel like I could go bigger again. It's always nice to have that, and obviously, as we'll see, there's more. There's more coming. You can see there. That's a bit more of the seats. So that's that vinyl panel, which is slowly unstitching itself. But I think at some point it might reupholster the seats as well. But it goes round and round. That's the original handle that was from the dashboard. It's quite a nice, solid chunk of aluminium. And there's our infrared camera. So that links to the screen, which is really nice. And actually, it's really useful because we've got the augmented reality. We can see, you can put, it's really nice for us to have a waypoint that we can see on the horizon on the screen. It's just a really easy way of checking if you're going in the right direction. It's
the augmented reality is a pretty neat feature, and for anybody in the audience that hasn't seen it before, it can basically link in with your cameras, and it overlays on the camera feed your waypoints or nearby nav aids or AIS contacts as well, so you can see them right in the camera feed and get identification of what's coming up.
It is amazing. I mean, it's way too overkill for Goodwin, but it is brilliant. It's it's very exciting. It's quite interesting to look at the roll. I mean, we also put it through its paces because we're so small. Obviously, the augmented reality is taking in the pitch and the roll of the boat, and then adjusting the position on the screen of that on the shot, so that they're locked in it. And it's quite impressive how well it can do it because we're obviously pitching and rolling a lot more than probably the larger boat that would have it.
Yes, you're definitely taking it to its limits. Not only in motion, but I mean, also it probably gets a lot wetter on your boat than on a lot larger boat too.
I mean, it's all very well weatherproofed. It's good, actually. It's that's something we don't really have to worry about. You can see behind there, I've started redoing the wiring because my original wiring, I just had a trailer wire from the front to the back, which was like one of the, that you'd use on a boat trailer or anything like that, because it's got that multi-cord stuff, but it's not really very waterproof. So redoing a bit of the wiring there. This is North Wales, Anglesey. You can see there, it's good for swimming. And funny enough, in that shot, it looks quite big. That's probably a good one for making it. There it is in Scotland. So we've been making good distance. And so we did a week-long trip and went from Wales all the way up to Scotland, which was really fun. And it's great, when you get into the rhythm of it, just waking up. We started getting up really early. And I remember someone commented actually saying, I wonder how long it takes them to realize that the calmer sea is early in the morning and late in the evening. And it's really good, getting up super early and also just, getting a couple of hours in almost as you're waking up is really fun.
I think there was actually a comment a little earlier. I'll pop it up here. This is from John. asking when you were going to be on the east coast of Scotland. So it sounds like you may have been through his neck of the woods already.
Yeah, we haven't. So East Coast, we're still on the West Coast. So
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we. I mean, I've no idea where we're going to go. So any suggestions? That sounds like a good one. I don't know it at all, but generally what I do is spend a lot of time looking at Google Maps before each trip, panicking and thinking, where are we going to go? And a lot of the time I'm just looking at the satellite images and thinking, well, that looks like a nice beach. We could probably go there. Or and a lot of it is about where you can go on the tide. If it's low tide and you can't get in, quite often, there'll be a great series of tides where it'll be high tide in the evening and the morning, but then the weather might not be that good. And then the better weather, it's low tide. So you're, so tricky. I remember someone saying, what, you're going to Clovelly at low water? It's going to be just like a great big, sandbank. But, that's the reality of it, I guess. Often you film somewhere at high tide and it looks great. And at low tide, it looks completely different. But half the time, that's actually how it is. But yeah, again, I knew nothing about tides when I started. It's like, I mean, I knew about high tide and low tide, but I had no real. It wasn't something that I was thinking about at all. But now, spring tides, all of these things that you start thinking, oh yeah, it makes a big difference.
You can get a whole new appreciation for it the first time you're trying to motor against the tide to get in somewhere too.
Completely. I mean, even on the speed, because we're running at maximum speed some of the time, you really notice it. Just we're doing 25 knots as opposed to 22. Makes a big old difference if it's this is going through the Crinan Canal that goes through sort of the southwestern tip of Scotland, and it cuts off the Mull of Kintyre, and because we'd gone up towards Glasgow, up the kind of through up Loch Fyne, we thought, well, we could go all the way back down, or maybe it would be interesting to go through this canal. Unfortunately, we popped the boat in the canal, so the front tube there, it's got a bit of a look like a sort of flat-nosed Porsche. It's got that kind of. The good thing is, I mean, I didn't know this previously, but basically, it will still float with all the tubes deflated, so it's got plenty of buoyancy in the hull.
The hull alone has enough buoyancy to keep it up. Yeah.
Yeah. But I definitely, at speed, it's a bit nerve-wracking because you're never sure whether, it's going to just nosedive. If you go over a little wave, it could easily plunge itself in, whereas normally you've just got so much buoyancy at the front. You'd never do that. Here we are. So this is up in Scotland, which was, it's really dramatically different up there. But actually, also, it's so exciting because it's just millions of tiny islands and just a lot of places to go in a small boat. These are my sister's sailing trousers that I borrowed. They don't quite fit me, but they, you realize having the right gear wearing the right gear is, we really need dry suits, I think, probably. Maybe the next purchase.
It is amazing what a difference having the right equipment makes. I do some work here in the States with the Boy Scouts, and we always tell the boys, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing.
Oh, that's definitely it. Yeah. I mean, what I've realized as well is it's like you need to get the clothing out before it happens. Because if you get wet, there's a very little incentive to start getting a bag of clothes out and getting changed.
Yeah, it's too late.
Yeah. And most people who come with me, they maybe haven't been before. So I'm always try and be kind of on it. And I know the bag where everything is. So I was like, no, let's just put it on, and it makes it all the more fun. So this is just a photo of what was kind of an interesting bit. I think this was from last year. And it started to realize that the seawater is quite abrasive. Once you've done over 1,000 miles at kind of high speed, it starts wearing down through the gel coat, and these are air bubbles in the original gel coat, obviously coming out. I mean, the one on the right looks more like some sort of gash where you've hit something, but you can see the strands of fiberglass there in that round hole, and it's that wasn't there when we started, and it's just slowly worn down through the layers of gel coat. And I've been learning a lot now recently about gel coat, because this winter it's drastic. Things have got drastic. So this is the big refit that's happening down at Cockwell's Boatyard, who very kindly said that they would help out, and they're fiberglass boat experts. So the original transom is marine plywood, but I was saying about those screw holes that go from the top. Well, it had just rotted all the way down. And I'd always kind of dreamed of doing this, but I knew that if I'd embarked on this at the beginning, the boat would probably never have got back in the water. So I left it. But we've never done any water skiing or anything like that, just because I was always worried about putting pressure on that fairly, you can lift the back of the outboard and the whole transom would rock backwards and forwards. And so in the end, we dug it out, and I'm working with a guy called Andy, who's an amazing fiberglass expert, and he's just knows everything there is to know and loves restoring things. So we've been going to town. But yeah, it's quite amazing. I mean, the plywood was completely rotten, but also it was still strong. It obviously lost a lot of its strength, but there's still a lot of strength in it. So it probably was kind of relatively over-engineered.
It's amazing for as old as that plywood is, and as long as it's been in there, and it's approaching 40 years old. So.
Yeah, it had quite an impressive smell to it.
I bet.
Everyone in this workshop was coming over asking about. You can see in the background actually there. That's a the kind of roof of one of the boats that's being built in the Cockwell's Boatyard. So that's the mold, the fiberglass mold upended, and into that they would be gel coating and fiberglassing the layers. So I'm learning a lot about all these things. I mean, gel coat is one of those things that I've heard a lot about, but never really knew what it was. And so it's quite interesting. It's this quite clever material. It's sort of half paint, half sort of epoxy resiny kind of material, and it's got color all the way through it, so you can sand it and polish it all the way down. And that's what these guys specialize in. So they get that sort of mirror finish, really kind of high-end product. It feels like a very kind of luxurious thing when it's done. And this is dash number 4, 5, I think.
Yeah.
So you guys have kindly given us some more kit. So this is the dream now. So the new one, we're basically doing away with all the switches, and we're going with digital switching. So previously, I was always running into problems with the amount of space that all the switches would take up. And now all of that switching will happen through the screen. And we've also then got the additional second screen. So we're going to have loads of space, and these will be linked together so that we can control everything. And also we did have the VHF radio up here, and that's now going to be the kind of remote. I think, is it the 90?
Probably a Ray 90 black box.
Yeah.
VHF.
So that's all the gear is going to be under the front where it's dry, and actually you'll just have the remote. So it's super high end, but actually in some ways it makes a lot of sense, because you want this dashboard to be as light as possible, because it's literally just resting on the inflated tubes. So it sort of bounces along. So keeping that super lightweight is going to be great, and it's just a lot more to play with, and it means we can have like the radar running here, or have the panel displaying all the switching or the voltage and things like that. It's great.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of flexibility for how to lay out the information that you want to see at any given time too. Having the two screens, you can just run things full screen or split screen or any combination thereof. Yeah.
And also, the thing I like is that the digital switching is basically for super yachts. So I think Goodwin deserves to have that on board, even if it's going to be quite bulky down there. But no, it makes a lot of sense actually, because the switching always basically the fuse board that I've just taken out is a kind of automotive, car fuse board, probably from eBay, that is always worrying me, because I just worry about the fuses rattling their way out. And it's quite hard to get in under there. So actually getting rid of all of that and having the digital switching is takes a lot of weight off my mind.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think at face value, it sounds like it would be very complicated, but in reality, it is going to really up the reliability, and it's gives you easier control over everything. And It'll probably be a little more flexible if you do additional upgrades or change gear around in the future too.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way we can just use software to adjust the wiring essentially as well. That's pretty cool. So, and I like the fact we'll get a picture of the boat on the screen and then be able to push the nav lights to turn the nav lights on in touchscreen. I think that's essential. When you're going around the top of Scotland, you need that. I basically can't resist the gadgets. So it's like my addiction.
That actually it ties in nicely to a question that Phil just posted a couple of minutes ago here. He says, maybe apart from another 20 feet of boat length, is there anything else that you wish Goodwin had on board?
I mean, I'd love to have some beds. I have to say, I have dreamed about how we could sleep on it. And I did originally, I was thinking we'll have beds, but it's just really, it's not practical. Someone also pointed out that on such a small boat, you won't really want to be smelling the petrol and everything else when you're trying to get to sleep, which is probably true. It's quite nice to get off. And I think another thing with beds is maybe one of the reasons the videos are successful on YouTube is that we're forced onto land because we don't have anywhere to sleep. I think if we had beds, I'd just like go to sleep and point the camera at the land and say, there you go, that's a hill over there. And actually having to go and put the tent up is quite good. But yeah, is there anything else? I mean, there is. I always want more. What was I thinking about recently? I mean, suspension seats would be quite fun. I mean, I know you guys have got a big zoom camera.
We do. Yeah, a little bit bigger than this one here.
Not that
makes more room, but
yeah. Because we're putting this camera on, which is pretty exciting.
Yes, yeah. This is a FLIR M232, so this is a pan, tilt, and zoom camera. So you'll be able to look around 360 degrees once you get that up there.
So we'll basically be able to use the touchscreen to swivel the camera feed.
Yes,
and that one's fully thermal. So if it's completely foggy, we'll be able to get an image through the fog with the thermal camera.
Yeah, the fog, it's going to vary a little bit depending on the density of the fog.
Right.
So, if the fog is lighter, the camera can see through it. As it starts to get very dense, if the fog is condensing on things, then it basically acts like rain, and the camera sees the temperature of that atmosphere.
Of course, you're seeing the particles rather than
rather than through them. But to some extent, you'll get a good picture. But if you do find yourself out after dark, or even another actually really nice use for these is if you're running, east or west in the morning or the afternoon, right into the sun. These cameras see right through that glare on the water because they don't see visible light; they only see infrared light. So
because I think the camera we've got has an infrared. It's got like a night vision mode.
Yes,
it's not a proper thermal camera. It's that classic sort of night vision that you might get on a video camera. Whereas this is like you could test the insulation properties of your house with this. And actually, I was trying to work out if I could do that.
You can, yes. Yep, they do.
Tow the boat around. This could be a new line of work for me, Jim. I could tow the boat around and do thermal insulation surveys. But it's like the proper one where like you can look at people and they're kind of red faces, or if they're wearing a jumper, it'll be blue. That kind of
right.
And also it will track stuff, won't it? I can set it tracking targets and things like that.
You can, yeah. So because you have radar on your system, you can follow radar contacts that are in track. If you wanted to look at a point of land or a buoy or a navigation aid that's on your chart, you can actually do a long press with your finger on the chart and tell the camera to lock in on that position, and the camera will hold. And even as the boat is moving, the camera will just continue to turn and follow that point until you release it or tell it to look somewhere else.
Amazing.
So it is pretty capable even for a very small camera.
Yeah. And how heavy is it? It's not too bad, is it?
It's not too bad. I mean, it's probably, and I'm guessing, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's around, maybe 10 pounds. I'm not sure how that is in kilos. To do some math, but it's not terribly heavy. It's less than your radar weighs.
Yeah. That's great. Do you want to go full screen just to give us a look at it?
Sure. Yeah. Let me bring that guy up. Yeah, so this is the FLIR M232. And again, it's a pan, tilt, and zoom camera. So you can see it actually swivels here at its base. It can look up or look down. And it's controlled by Axiom's touchscreen. This particular one is actually a dummy camera we use in shows. So I can't control it. But
that's pretty exciting. I mean, I'm just imagining watching that swiveling around on the back of Goodwin. It's going to be quite amazing.
You'll definitely be an attention getter, that's for sure.
Yeah. That's great.
So I see we're getting towards the ends of the hour, Harry, and there's some pretty good questions in here. Let me pop a couple of these up. Let's see here. This is actually one kind of related to electricity on board your boat, because obviously you've got a lot of gear in a small boat in a small space. So how do you manage power on board Goodwin?
So the 30 horsepower, we've got the Honda BF30, and the one we've got is actually from 2009. And it's got a 70-watt alternator, I think, which is pretty small. And so with everything switched on, the alternator just about runs it. But this is where the new transom comes in, because hopefully there will be a larger 50 horsepower going on the back from Honda.
Okay.
And that has a 200-watt alternator. So that basically... it's a massive jump up in power. So I think that will cover us. We have way more than we need, basically. And then, we were talking, Jim, earlier, weren't we, about solar panels. That is probably, like, it would be nice to potentially be able to keep the boat topped up when the engine's not running and be able to leave systems on. So it's sort of trying to work out where we can put a solar panel. But
yes, you definitely have a limited footprint of where you can mount them.
Yeah.
But I'm sure.
Well, I was saying, copyright my idea from Raymarine Harry Dwyer product is the it's now going to be in a recorded video.
Yeah,
you'll be like, Harry, we got the plans for that. But yeah, I think you could have a round circular solar panel on top of the radar, because I reckon you could get maybe a 40-watt panel on top, and then you could run it all the way down your existing cable, and for someone, imagine someone with their really swanky boat. They don't want some ugly solar panel. You could integrate it perfectly into your thing. And actually, for most of the stuff you wanted to keep running, if it's just a bilge pump, that would do it.
Mm-hmm.
It would do it fine.
Yeah, it's certainly most critical to keep the water out. Yeah.
And the radar is probably one of those things that actually is out. It's always on show, isn't it? Most of the time.
Yes.
When you're in the water. You never really cover up the radar dome, probably. But yeah, you're not seeming keen on this product idea, Jim.
I don't know. There could be something to it. We'll definitely run it past the team at Farab and see what they think.
It could have my signature on it, the Harry Dwyer solar panel.
There we go. We get some royalties for.
I could make it. I could make it out of glue, and with out of wood and glue. Sell it through the Raymarine website.
This question actually came in about the FLIR camera. And it was actually wondering like how it ties into Axiom and how you'd be able to pull content from it. So what is interesting about these cameras is they do video over Ethernet. So it is a digital connection to Axiom. And Axiom has the ability to take snapshots or to record MP4 digital video from the camera right to its micro SD card. So if anybody's interested in getting one of these on board their boat and they want to pull video or stills from it, it is actually pretty easy to do because it's stored right on a memory card in Axiom. And you can pop it out and take it right into your editing software, or you can upload it to social media or whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, I use some of the, because it works. Presumably it's the same way as the 210 camera, the one we've got at the moment. Mm-hmm. Works. Yeah, because I use some of those shots, and actually, because one of the problems I have with the GoPro that's on the back is when you're planing, trying to climb out to the GoPro to switch it on at the back, or change the battery or something is quite terrifying. And so it's quite nice to be able to just remotely hit record on the camera at the back. So I think we would use that. But that camera is only a thermal camera, isn't it?
This particular one is only a thermal camera, correct? Yep.
So there'll be a lot of black and white or crazy multicolored shots of.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. Yep. You have all the color palettes that are in there.
Yeah.
So looks like we're getting to the end of the hour. I think we got time probably for one more question. And I saw this come up a couple times in the feed, so I'll just throw it out. But what's next? When's the next episode coming? And when can people start tuning in to see the rest of your adventure?
So the next episode is Wales to Scotland. And it's like the really big run. I filmed way too much. And I was trying to work out whether to do 2 episodes or 1. I think it'll probably be 1. But I think hopefully I'm hoping in a couple of weeks it should be out. But these things always drag on. A bit like the refit.
Yeah, right.
And there's no plan. This is the thing. There's no plan. It's just, I thought we might have it in the water by now, but it's still in the workshop. And so the episodes in the same way. I kind of get distracted by filming new episodes when I should probably be editing old ones. I've almost got a backlog now. I need to just down tools on everything else. Do you want to put the slideshow back? I'll just quickly show the hull. That is the very shiny hull. Now it was so scratched, but Andy at Cockwell's has been re-gel coating, sanding, finishing it, and it's quite an amazing thing.
Looks like it's brand new.
I know. Essentially, it is. It still has its original tubes, so it keeps the same look, but it's very satisfying and probably will be quite a bit quicker. That little black hole there is the breather hole because it has a flooding keel, so it takes on a load of water, which is this quite unusual system that really they don't use, I don't think, anymore. But at the time, it was a clever idea. So when you're going slowly, it takes on 100 liters of water and makes it very stable. And then when you plane, the water drains out the back, and then suddenly the boat bobs up. When you've only got 30 horsepower and you're going through rough weather, it becomes more of a problem because you're trying to get rid of 100 liters of water and you don't really have the power.
Quick enough.
But it does make for like catching the drone and things like that. Makes you feel a lot safer actually when you're not being thrown around so much.
I can imagine. Yeah, definitely improve the ride quality.
Yeah, and that's just the last deal. That's us heading to Blackpool. We were going to go to the Isle of Man because basically you can cut straight across via the Isle of Man, which would have been really interesting, but because of the coronavirus, we weren't actually allowed to go into the Isle of Man. So we were forced to go all the way in and around. And actually, it was good that we did because we'd never have gone to these places. So, yeah, more wiggling.
Well, definitely a very cool journey so far. And I think it's awesome to see how you document everything along the way. I'm sure you meet all sorts of interesting people and really can't wait to see what's next.
Well, yeah. Well, no, it's I don't know what's next, but it's definitely going to be a lot shinier boat with more gadgets. So
no shortage of gadgets, that's for sure.
Now we just got to get out there once it's So no, there's hopefully a lot more to come. Who knows how long it's going to take though.
Very good. Well, I think that is where we're going to end our episode for tonight. So for all of you that joined us live this afternoon, thank you very, very much for taking time out of your evening in the UK and your afternoons here in the US. I saw we had some visitors from all over. And definitely stay posted for future episodes of Raymarine Live. Harry, thank you so much for joining us today. And,
thank you very much. My pleasure.
See you all in the future. Thanks
Goodbye.
for watching.